Hello, my friends. It's Nick. It's the ASMR nerd. And today I'm going to be talking about my favorite games of the summer games period 2023, of Not-E3 2023. Traditionally, of course, June would have been E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, where all the big publishers would be revealing their new games and all that sort of stuff. And this would be a singular event that would take place in LA. But, of course, that's no longer the case. E3 is probably dead and gone for good, perhaps. And these days we have this kind of distributed season around mid-June where various publishers reveal their games, show new trailers, all that kind of stuff. We also get all these shows kind of coming along with this, with various themes like indie games, cozy games, the Summer Games Fest of Jeff Keighley showing off all kinds of stuff, PC gaming show. So we still kind of have that season of games where there's all these new reveals, but it's a little more spread out than it used to be. So I basically waited for the entire month of June because I really wasn't sure, if there were going to be other things being revealed or whatnot. So now we're in July. I feel like it's safe for me to talk about some of the most impressive things that I saw. Now, this is not necessarily a list of my most anticipated games. Of course, I am really looking forward to games like Starfield, for example, but you're not going to find Starfield on this list because at the beginning of each year in January, I do a most anticipated games of the year list. And so to make this one a little different, to distinguish this one, this list is about games that were either revealed for the first time at, well, I was going to say at E3, but in the Summer Games season this year, or that had, real gameplay shown for the first time. And it's not going to be like a hard and fast distinction. I'm not going to be like really firm about those rules. And of course, I have not seen every game that was revealed or showcased during this season this year, because it feels like every year there are more. There are like hundreds and hundreds of games revealed every summer these days. And so I've seen some of them. I watched the major press conferences from the big publishers and manufacturers. And I've seen some indie stuff as well. But there's no doubt stuff that I have not seen that I will be missing. So this is just my personal list of things that I saw that really caught my attention. And some of these are very early yet, without not a lot of gameplay being shown, but that, I think demoed really well, or that made a real impression. And so this is no doubt different from your list. And I would love to hear from you down in the comments what your most impressive, or the games that you thought were most impressive from this summer games season, or the games that you were most looking forward to that were revealed or announced in this period from this year. But for me, a lot of this is about aesthetics. And I know that's kind of a shallow thing, but when the game has just been revealed or we've only just seen gameplay, there's often not a lot to go on. So it tends to be the flashier games, the games with striking visual design, or some other aspect or hook that really interests me that end up on this list. And strong visual design and eye-catching designs are certainly a part of that. So this list is sort of skewed that way. Speaking, of course, about strong visual design, eye-catching aesthetics, you might have noticed, your eye might have been caught even by this shirt that I'm wearing from this video's sponsor, Into the AM. You guys know Into the AM by now. They make awesome elevated everyday apparel, which means clothes that look great, that feel great, that They're easy to care for, and they're known for their eye-catching graphic tees. You see me wearing them here a lot on the channel, and I talk about them in a lot of my videos. That's because I like them a lot. They are exactly what they say they are. They're beautiful, exclusively licensed designs that you're not going to find anywhere else. They are super easy to care for, pre-shrunk. You just throw them in the wash, throw them in the dryer, off you go. And they're really, really comfy. They are nicely fitted. Like, I really love just how slightly stretchy they are. So they have this kind of flattering cut and fit. And they feel great to wear all day long, which is why they're pretty much all I wear these days. Not even gonna lie, I wear a lot of Into the AM t-shirts, and you could too. You could not only wear Into the AM t-shirts, you could save 10% off your entire order at Into the AM using the link down below at the top of the video description. You'll save yourself some money, and in doing so, you will also be supporting this channel, which I appreciate very much. This particular tee is one of my favorite new designs from them. It's got this beautiful kind of like synth wave, but also natural look to it that I'm really digging. And other people have been digging this shirt too. I'll tell you, I've got more compliments on this shirt than anything I've worn for quite some time. People seem to really like this design. It definitely catches eyes. As a matter of fact, the other day, I was going to pick up something that I bought off Facebook Marketplace. I was meeting the seller somewhere nearby, and we met, we exchanged the item, and then he's like, "Oh, I really like your shirt. That's awesome." And I was like, "Oh, thank you very much." And I've been in this situation many a time because, again, Into the AM stuff definitely looks amazing. People really like it. Garners a lot of compliments. But in past, I've been too shy to let them know that, hey, if you like it, I have a discount code for Into the AM where you can save 10% off your entire order. This time, friends, I was brave. And I went for it. And I said, by the way, if you would like to save money on Into the AM, you can use my discount code. Are you interested? And the guy just looked at me. He's like, "No, I don't think so. Thanks, though." And I was like, dang it. But what I learned from this, friends, is that I think if I wanted to do that in the future, IRL, probably having a card with my code on it would be the least awkward way to do it. Because it did feel a little awkward telling someone in person, like, "Oh, by the way, I have this discount code." So, as some of you have suggested the business card, I think that's the way that I'm going to go in future. But I just want to let you know, I wanted to give you that update because this is an ongoing story where I've had, this kind of encounter numerous times. And you guys are always like, "Yeah, Nick, you should have gone ahead. You should have just told them the code or offered it." And I've always been like, "Oh, just too awkward." But this time I tried it. And I think I need to modify my approach. But definitely not awkward telling you guys that this video is sponsored by Into the AM. You can save 10% off your entire order, from graphic tees to hoodies to tanks to shorts and all that good stuff, using the link down below in the video description. You will save money, you will support the channel, you will get yourself some beautiful, comfortable, easy to care for Into the AM swag. So thank you very much, Into the AM, for sponsoring today's video. And thank you to anybody who goes and uses that code and picks up some sweet Into the AM gear. All right, that went a little longer than I intended because I threw in the little story there, but I know some of you are like looking for updates on the Nick Into the AM code sharing story, because I've talked about this several times before in previous videos. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk video games. Video games of summer 2023. So I'm doing this as a top 10 list. I'm going to count down my top 10. I have some honorable mentions as well that I didn't feel quite fit the spirit of the category for various reasons, or just didn't quite make my top 10. We'll talk about those after. But the first game on my top 10 list is the Super Mario RPG Remake. Now, this is a funny one. It was a late edition because Nintendo didn't do their direct until like quite late in June, which is again what I mean when I say it's like very distributed season these days. It's kind of all of June seems to have these game reveals. And there wasn't too much in that direct that really excited me. But the Super Mario RPG remake was unexpected and exciting for me because I never played this game back in the day. I never had a Super Nintendo when I was younger. I did play it a little bit more recently by emulator. I guess I admit to that. Nintendo's gonna strike this video down. But only a little bit. And what I enjoyed about it was the combat felt very unique. It felt like it was this cool blend of turn-based, but also with this action timing element where you gotta hit the A button at just the right time to like enhance your damage or mitigate damage. And I think that's a neat style of turn-based combat that, or like hybrid combat, I guess, that we just don't really see these days. And it's kind of surprising to me that more games haven't actually adopted that over the years, because I think it's kind of fun, and it adds a little bit of depth. And I know it's also this very classic, beloved element of the Super Mario franchise that's just kind of different. It's kind of weird, you know, and there was never a sequel as far as I know. So I feel like this is a kind of a unique thing that's now being brought forth into the current generation. And I'm looking forward to checking it out on the Switch in a modern context. So that's my number 10. Number 9 is a game called Phantom Blade Zero. I think this was shown during the PlayStation showcase. I believe this is the first time it's been announced and revealed. So this is a really impressive looking blend of like third-person character action, but really, really tight and precise looking combat. Like some incredible sequences they're showing with just amazing like sequences of attacks and parries, and you know, it's got kind of a Souls-like feel in that combat seems very deadly and very, you know, precise, but it seems faster, I would say. And it just, the combat was what really impressed me about this trailer. It looked extremely ambitious and just so clean, so precise. So it's hard to know how that's gonna feel when we actually play it, but if it feels as good as it looks, then wow, that could be something really impressive. It's also got a really neat setting. It's got this kind of like Chinese wuxia meets steampunk aesthetic. It looks like it's sort of a story about vengeance and redemption, perhaps. And I'm not quite sure, but a very dark aesthetic, but some really cool creature and enemy designs as well. So that definitely caught my eye. And I don't know about the studio that puts it out, or their pedigree or anything like that. I believe it's a Chinese developer. So, but it certainly was an impressive showing for a debut like that. At number 8, I have something actually kind of similar in that it is what appears to be a third-person action fighter set in a traditional Asian setting, and that is Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess. And I know this was showcased during the Xbox Games Showcase. I think that's the first time it's been shown. It is a Capcom developed game, and wow, talk about visually striking this game. It's fascinating art design. It made me think of like psychedelic Japanese folklore. It has incredibly beautiful but unsettling designs. It's like a this kind of kaleidoscope theme with these bright colors, but these horrific looking creatures and very unsettling environmental elements, like all these hands grasping all over the buildings and environments and stuff. And the combat is a little bit hard to get a handle on from what they showed in the trailer, but there's clearly sword play, sort of third person sword fighting. It looks like there's spell casting elements as well. There was elements of like dancing, lots of dancing shown in the trailer. And maybe there's multiple characters that you're going to be controlling. Again, it was kind of hard to get a sense of it, but visually really, really striking. It definitely caught my attention with its beautiful but deeply unsettling environment and creature designs. And I think that could be really, really cool. Capcom has been on a real roll lately, so definitely interested in Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. Coming in at number 7, another game with very striking visual design. Are you noticing this theme? This is called Sword of the Sea, but it's more than just the visual design that attracts me to this. So this game is being developed by Giant Squid Games. You might know them from Abzu and The Pathless, two very beautiful and very interesting, unique games. The studio is headed up by the art director who also worked on Journey, which is one of the most impactful games I've ever played. And Sword of the Sea kind of looks like a blend of all those things. Definitely has elements of Journey in that you're in this desert setting. You're playing this kind of lonely looking nomad wearing this robe. Very Journey-like art direction in that way. But this desert setting also appears to be maybe getting restored into an ocean, like the dunes are waves, and then it shows parts where the character activates a thing and then it changes from desert into ocean. And of course the ocean elements are very reminiscent of Abzu, with all these amazing marine life swimming through these environments. And Abzu had this almost obsession with the beauty of marine life. And then the Pathless comes in with the traversal, because the Pathless had this very interesting traversal mechanic where you kind of bound and fly around the landscape, like moving from node to node. It's a very like free and flowing kind of traversal. And Sword of the Sea looks to be like a snowboard simulator almost. You're kind of like snowboarding over these sand dunes and on these waves. So clearly motion, traversal, fluidity of movement is something that it looks like they're focusing on with this game as well. Giant Squid and this particular art director, whose name I don't actually know, but they have always been very good at evoking strong feelings, strong emotions through their visual design and through their gameplay mechanics. It's a very harmonious kind of design, philosophy, and aesthetic. So we don't know much about Sword of the Sea beyond that, but I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. I'm sure it's going to feel amazing to play. So I'm very much here for it and looking forward to it. At number 6, an interesting entry for me, because I have never played the game preceding in this series. At number 6, I have Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, this is a series with what seems to be a very hardcore cult following. The original game was quirky in many ways from my understanding, but there are some people that really, really loved it, and to this day, really loved that series. I never played Dragon's Dogma 1, although I've been interested in it over the years. I just never got a chance to try it. but I know that it's got a very interesting companion system, character customization system. It's set, of course, in this kind of high fantasy setting. And what caught my eye about Dragon's Dogma 2 is that the combat in the trailer looks really cool. It shows some really neat looking spell casting and sword fighting kind of combat. The setting also looks beautiful. I'm a sucker for like fantasy settings in games, and Dragon's Dogma 2 looks to have some really interesting cultures and places represented. And it looks like it's quite focused on telling an interesting story. I know nothing about the story in Dragon's Dogma 1, but just what they showed of the voice acting, the performance capture, and sort of a few bits and pieces of the story in this gameplay trailer, it caught my attention. It piqued my interest. So I will be keeping an eye out for Dragon's Dogma 2, and maybe I'll check it out when it launches. Hopefully, I probably will. If it continues to look as interesting as it did in that trailer. Maybe some of you are Dragon's Dogma fans. I don't know, but let me know. If that series is, well, if you're a fan, of course you're going to say the series is worth getting invested in, but let me know what you find unique and interesting about it. At number 5, a similar kind of thing here, which is to say it's an entry in a series that I know very little about, that I've never played before, but that I know has a bit of a cult following. At number 5, I have Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. That name means nothing to me, but this game is from Software, which in itself is enough to pique my interest, get my attention these days. After playing Elden Ring, I can say I'm a From Software convert. And it just looks so stylish. Like, it looks bleak, don't get me wrong, but the environments that they've showed, the mecha that they've showed, and the combat just looks incredibly stylish. And like nothing I've ever played before, really. I don't typically play like mecha games, but the designs that they're showing here, both the environments and the mechs, and just the there's just a style to the whole presentation, from the fluidity of the combat to the over-the-top nature of some of these wild, machines, to the environments, which, even though they are quite bleak looking, apparently, have a lot of variety from what they've shown, to the music as well. Even like, it just combines to create this vibe. I just really like the vibe of what they've shown of that game so far. And the scale also is something really impressive. These massive robots fighting one another in these huge environments. But yeah, the combat looks intense, and very, very From Software. So if a little flashier maybe than what I'm used to seeing from them. So yeah, Armored Core 6. Again, if you are an Armored Core fan, I'm sure you're very excited for this game. I know nothing about the setting, nothing about the story, but I'm here for it. And I think, hopefully it comes out as something that's, lives up to the From Software lineage, right? At number 4, this one is one that had been revealed previously, as had Armored Core 6 actually, but we didn't really have much in the way of gameplay. And this is Assassin's Creed Mirage. This is the smaller scale Assassin's Creed that Ubisoft is developing, that is intended to be a throwback to the original games like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 and Brotherhood and that era of Assassin's Creed games. So rather than this sprawling open world RPG, this is more focused. It's set in 800s Baghdad, which I think is a really cool setting just right off the bat. Sounds like a fascinating location and era to explore. And then, of course, the smaller scope means it seems to be more focused on stealth gameplay. We see a lot of assassinations in the trailer, rather than like face-to-face combat and just kind of riding in on your mount and chopping dudes up, which the main series games have sort of developed into. Now, I'm not hating on the recent Assassin's Creed games. Honestly, I know some people really didn't like the design direction with the open world. I really actually love where those games have gone, but I think it's cool that they're looking at this more focused, smaller scope, throwback kind of style of Assassin's Creed game to live alongside these open world behemoths that they're working on. And I think that the two can definitely, exist in peace together. And when I play these modern Assassin's Creed games, I tend to play them still in that stealthy way. I really like to sneak my way through encampments, silently assassinate. So, I still love that classic Assassin's Creed stealth gameplay. And so, I think Mirage is going to offer that in spades, which isn't to say that Basim looks weak or anything. Like, if anything, he looks kind of OP in the gameplay trailers. Like, they show this crazy teleport thing where you basically tag a certain number of opponents that are in your field of view, and then Basim just kind of zips to one, and then the next, and then the next, and just murders each one in turn in this sort of automated way, which looks like kind of OP, but also really fun. So anyway, we'll see. I will say, visually, it does look a bit dated. Not bad per se, but just noticeably somewhat last gen. And I think that's largely because I think it is a cross-gen game. It's still coming out on PS4 and Xbox One. And so it has that look to it. It looks quite a bit like Assassin's Creed Origins, I would say. Probably shares a lot of assets with it. I know it's obviously a different locality, a different setting, but the color scheme and general vibe is kind of similar. Which again, I really liked Origins, so I don't have an issue with that necessarily, but it'll be interesting to see if this game is what old school fans of Assassin's Creed have wanted for all these years. And it'll be, I think, a good thing if Ubisoft can have these two, streams where they can satisfy the fans of the new designs and the fans of the old designs, or the fans of both, like me. So that is number 4. Coming in here at number 3. Now this one's a little bit of a cheat on this list because they technically didn't show gameplay. Really? They just showed in-engine stuff. But Fable, the long-awaited Fable reboot, or soft reboot, hard reboot, successor, not quite sure. The trailer for this game was really great, even though it didn't really show any gameplay. But it showcased a very British sense of humor, which I think is, that sense of humor is key to the Fable games, of which I've only ever played Fable 1, I should specify. But I have fond memories of Fable 1. And this game is being developed by Playground Games, which is the developer largely behind the Forza Horizon series. Those guys know fun. Forza Horizon is like fun distilled down in many ways. It's just this joyous thing. And I think the combination of that very British sense of humor with just the fun of Playground Games sort of development philosophy in a fantasy setting like Fable is something we've never really seen before. And then, of course, it's beautiful as well because Playground Games, they got technical chops. They know how to make a lovely game. And so I trust them to make something really fun, something very unique. And this feels, of course, super different from the Forza Horizon games, which I think is always a good thing when a studio gets a chance to break away from a series they've been working on for a while. I feel like you can sense this like reinvigorated kind of passion behind those kinds of projects a lot of the time. So I have high hopes for Fable. Again, it's early yet. They've not really showed any gameplay. It was all this kind of in-engine cinematic stuff. But it looks really fun. It looks really beautiful. I'm very much here for the new Fable. And number 2, Avowed. Avowed. This is one that they revealed a few years ago, but we had not seen any gameplay from, really. This is Obsidian Software's, Obsidian Software, is that what they're called? I think so, whatever, Obsidian. They have, most recently the Outer Worlds. They have, of course, the Pillars of Eternity series, Fallout New Vegas, many storied and fairly legendary RPGs. Avowed is their take on the first-person RPG a la Elder Scrolls. So right there, you've got me interested. Like Obsidian doing Elder Scrolls? Okay. That was sort of the original idea and pitch. It sounds like Avowed has since grown, evolved. Well, if anything, actually not really grown. It's kind of shrunk in scope. Now it is being pitched as more of the Outer Worlds size and scope kind of game, but fantasy style. I did not play Outer Worlds. I know it got kind of mixed reception. Some people really liked it. Others thought that it was a little light, a little thin on the mechanics and the content. It's on my to-play list. I do want to get to it eventually. And so actually hearing that it's kind of shifted focus from this Elder Scrollsian thing to this more limited scope kind of thing, it does put a slight damper on my excitement for the game. I'm not going to lie. But what they've shown so far looks really interesting. It's set in the world of Pillars of Eternity, so the setting of Eora. I played the first Pillars of Eternity. I never played the second, although evidently it is very good. Maybe one day if I have time. But exploring that world from a first-person perspective actually sounds fascinating. We have very few first-person fantasy RPGs to begin with, so that right there is enough to interest me. But what they've shown of the combat in particular, some really cool looking first-person spell casting seems to be a focus. There's a voiceover in the trailer talking about speaking of the main character, it's like, oh, you scare us, like your magic, your secrets, like you have all this power, what are you gonna do with it? So it sounds like it might be kind of a power fantasy kind of situation, and I think that could be really fun. And of course, Obsidian is known for excellent storytelling, and so I suspect that we will not be disappointed by the story in this game, even if it is a little more focused in scope, a little scaled down from maybe what they had originally planned for this game. But it's good that they're staying true to their strengths and what they like to do as a studio. I think that's better than trying to do something else that, and emulate something that another studio does. I think it's good that they're staying true to themselves and playing to their strengths. And I think that will probably make for the best possible game. So Avowed, I'm still very interested in. Would love to see more. And finally, here we are at the number 1 spot. This has maybe been something conspicuously missing from the list, but I'm surprised to find myself putting this here, honestly. Certainly nothing I expected coming into this Summer Games season. But in my number 1 spot is Star Wars Outlaws. Yes, a Star Wars game. Star Wars Outlaws. This is a brand new Star Wars game from Ubisoft, technically from Massive Entertainment. They have the Division games. And they had announced that this game existed, but we hadn't seen anything about it prior to this Summer Games season. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. I was really impressed by what they showed of Star Wars Outlaws. So, as the name suggests, it's focused on the criminal element of the Star Wars universe. And right away, that's a fantastic decision, I think, because there's a very rich seam of lore and fascinating characters and settings and stories to be told there that's not often touched on by mainstream Star Wars properties. We get a lot of stuff about Jedi, obviously. We get a lot of stuff about the rebels versus the Empire. But the criminal underworld is not something we get to spend a lot of time with. And so I'm really excited to delve into that aspect of the Star Wars universe and explore that more. Now, of course, the Empire and the Rebels will weave into that story inevitably. In fact, it was shown in the gameplay trailer. This game is also set in the original trilogy era, which for a millennial like myself, that's a big win. It's set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which I love that. I love that. The theme of the game, the timing and setting of the game, already very interesting to me. But then what they showed of the gameplay surprised me too. It looks quite diverse. So it's third person stealth and action is what they show. The main character, she appears to be a scoundrel in a Han Solo-like way. Clearly, she's got some debts and things like that, and she's got this sort of life in this criminal underworld. But she's a risk taker, a gambler type character. I cannot remember the name of the actress who portrays her, but my stomach growling here. The performance capture and the performance itself that they have shown so far is extremely impressive. And that is aided by what might be the best graphics I saw in this Summer Games season. Like the best graphics I saw showcased. If not the best, they're definitely up there. Like, if I was giving a best graphics technical award for this Summer Games season, it might go to this game because it just looks really, really good, especially in the cutscenes. A little less so in the gameplay, but that's pretty typical. But the cutscenes just look, wow, like really impressive, combined with the strength of the acting and the performance capture technology they've got going on. Like, just the cutscenes alone were exceedingly impressive. But she plays with a blaster. She kind of plays a little dirty. Like, there's one part where she just taps a dude on the shoulder from behind, and he turns around and she sucker punches him in the face. There's another part where she goes like, whoa, 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 and pretends to surrender. And then the bad guy comes forward and is gonna talk with her. And then she takes the opportunity to shoot him in the leg. So there's clearly that element of deception going on here. She's got a really cute sidekick that's like this fuzzy, lizardy kind of creature. I don't know, but apparently all good Star Wars characters have to have sidekicks. Cal Kestis, Beatty. So we've got a sidekick in this game. But then beyond the stealth combat, the action shooting, they showed a high-speed speeder bike chase. They showed lots of cinematic conversations, and they showed some space combat where she escapes the planet and is dogfighting with some TIE fighters and stuff. So the scope and scale of what they're showing of this game the diversity of sort of the combat, the openness of it, all is way more than I expected. Now, it's a trailer. It's designed to be hype. It's probably a vertical slice of gameplay. What the actual extent of the universe is, how much freedom you actually have, yet to be determined, right? Maybe it's smaller in scope and more scaled back than I think it is, but all I'll say is I came away from that trailer and that gameplay demo extremely impressed with the acting, the graphics, the diversity of gameplay, just the overall presentation of the game. Like, it looks really, really good. It looks like it's fulfilling a Star Wars fantasy that I have long had, but then no game has quite hit on before. So that's enough for me to put Star Wars Outlaws in my #1 spot for the Summer Games season 2023. So I do have a handful of honorable mentions here as well. I'm just going to go through them really quickly. One is South of Midnight. This was showcased in the Xbox Games trailer. It's got this trailer with this cool stop motion exchange between a girl, a woman, and like a sinister kind of character. There's a swamp monster. It's set in what looks like the bayou. And it's got this lovely stop motion style. This was the visual direction that really caught me. They didn't show anything of the gameplay, so I really don't know what kind of game it is, but just that trailer alone was captivating. I'm really interested to learn more about South of Midnight. Dungeons of Hinterberg. Dungeons of Hinterberg was another game that was showcased during the Xbox showcase. Looks like more of an indie kind of thing, but it's got this really vibrant comic booky art style and a cool concept that seems to juxtapose like modern everyday life with going off on adventures in the wilderness. And there's sort of a future tech element to it. But they showed a fair bit of gameplay in the trailer. Again, the art design is striking, incredibly vibrant, and I just like the concept that's going on there. So curious to see more of Dungeons of Hinterberg. Asgard's Wrath 2. Asgard's Wrath 2. This is a game that was showcased during the Oculus showcase, so a lot of people might have missed it, especially if you're not into VR. You might not have caught it. It was an Oculus Store exclusive. I should say the first one was. I suspect the second one will be too. But I played some of the first one. It was a really cool, like AA, but well-developed game for VR. And we don't get a lot of those, like, very large experiences in VR. Those games that feel like a full meal deal, are often lacking. You get a lot of experiences and demos and stuff, but not so much like a full-on game. And Asgard's Wrath 1 was very much that. It had a cool system where you had these like animal companions, or like animal-human hybrid companions that you would direct to do certain things to help you in the environment. It had some really fun combat. It was quite unique. It felt like a high-quality, polished AA kind of game with an extensive campaign for VR. And so for that reason, I'm excited about Asgard's Wrath 2 as well. Hopefully it lives up to expectations. And the last thing on my honorable mentions list is Power Wash Simulator Cross Warhammer 40k. We don't know anything more about it than that, other than Power Wash Simulator is getting a Warhammer 40k DLC. That is enough for me to be excited. The sheer audacity of that concept is wild, and I love it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And that is everything on my list for now. Now, like I said, I'm still spending some time looking through some of the announcements. So many games announced, demoed, showcased. it's really impossible to stay on top of it all these days. Maybe there's some stuff that you saw that you are very excited about that did not make it on my list. And of course, there are lots of things that are better known that we have seen more gameplay of prior to this summer game season that I'm very hype about as well, like Starfield. But this was a focused look, hopefully, at things that were primarily showcased for the first time in this sort of Summer Games 2023 window. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts on my picks and hear what your personal picks are for the games that were revealed or showcased here that you are most excited about. I'm sure there are some that I just am not aware of, but that I would be very hype about if they're brought to my attention. So, all right, friends. Hey, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing about these games I'm excited for. And gaming's good right now. Like, holy cow. 2023 shaping up to be a banger of a year for games coming out and games announced to be hyped for in the future as well. Thank you very much for watching, friends, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now. Welcome, intrepid traveler. You've made it to the end of the video unscathed. I'm impressed you've come this far. And so what do you receive for this great feat of strength? Well, your reward is to see the hallowed names of this channel's supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Here they are before you. But not only that, you also have the opportunity to join these remarkable individuals if you're interested in supporting what I do here on this channel. Please check out the links down below in the video description. For both Patreon and YouTube, you can learn all about the fun exclusive perks that you can attain there, such as early access to my weekend videos, and of course your name in these credits. There is one particular tier of supporters, you can see them here, the Fusroda tier, that gets a very special perk indeed. They get their name read out in every single one of my videos. And our Fusroda supporters for this video are James C., Ragnar Ragnarsson, Dragoon88, Jake Luffney, Rango Steele, K Time, Drummer Brit, and Angel Garcia. What a wonderful group of folks. And honestly, I could not thank these people enough for their kind support. It allows me the freedom to do some fun videos that are maybe not the most popular, but that I really enjoy and that you hopefully do as well. So a huge shout out to our wonderful supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships.